Conformity. What is conformity? Conformity is defined as a change in beliefs or behaviors as a result of real or imagined group pressure. As an example of conformity, picture yourself watching a play. Once the play is over, one person starts applauding, and then suddenly everyone else does it. When you realize everyone else is applauding, then you feel a bit of group pressure. You don't want to be the only person not clapping, so of course you clap as well. That is conformity. When you fall in line with everyone else's behavior due to this group pressure, whether or not it's real or completely imagined. Sharif's study on conformity. Sharif's study on conformity uses a key factor called the autokinetic effect, which is a phenomenon of visual perception in which a stationary small point of light in an otherwise dark or featureless environment appears to move. For the first part, participants in the study were placed by themselves in a completely dark room with a small point of light directly in front of them. This point of light never moved throughout the entire experiment. Participants were later individually asked to estimate how far the point of light moved. These estimates varied considerably. The participants were later tested in groups of 3. Sharif manipulated who would be in the group by selecting 2 participants whose estimates were close to each other and 1 participant whose estimate was extremely different. Each participant then had to say aloud how far the point had moved. The results of this study show that over numerous trials, the group settled on a common estimate. The person whose estimate was significantly different than the other 2 in the group conformed to their view. These results concluded that when in an ambiguous situation, a person will look to others for guidance. They want to do the right thing, but lack the appropriate information, which is provided by observing others. This type of conformity is called informational conformity. Ash's conformity study. Ash's study on conformity was aimed at discovering whether people would conform even if their behavior was obviously wrong. Ash conducted this experiment to investigate the extent to which social pressure from a majority group could affect a person to conform. The procedure consisted of a sole participant sitting at a table with 7 confederates. Confederates are people who assist the researcher in the study, but they are not participants. These confederates had agreed in advance what their response would be when presented with the task, which the real participant had no idea of and was led to believe that the other 7 participants were just like him. Each person at the table had to say aloud which comparison line, A, B, or C, was most like the target line. The answer would always be obvious, and the real participant sat at the end of the row, which meant he gave his answer last. The results showed that people conformed 37% of the time. 75% of people conformed at least once, and 25% never conformed at all. Typically, people tend to prefer being wrong than feeling the social discomfort when they divert from the norm. Here's a short clip showing a recreation of Ash's conformity study.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the 5th person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2,
2,
2,
2,
2, 3,
3,
3,
3.
But on the 3rd trial, something happens.
2, 2,
2,
2, 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
1.
Ash found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1.
1.
They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me.
1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1.
1.
1.
2. 1. 2.
2.
2.
I know they're wrong, but why should I make waves?
2.
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2. 2. 2. 2.
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Ash gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
1.
1. 2.
1. 2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical trials compared to 37% without a partner. Although subjects report warmth and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence. The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition. When that unanimity is punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced. Sometimes we go along with the group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Ash. In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers. Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
1.
1. 1.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform. Conformity drops by 2/3. Ash's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure.
The reasons why people conform. Number 1. Information influence. Influence that produces conformity when a person believes others are correct in their judgments. This occurs frequently under ambiguous situations in which people's motivation is to be accurate. An example of this would be arriving at a food court at a mall and observing that everyone is sitting in front of a specific food shop. Would you assume that the particular food shop that they are sitting in front of has the best food because everyone is eating there? And number 2, normative influence. Influence that produces conformity when a person fears the negative social consequences of appearing deviant. The motivation here is to be liked among others, to follow the norm. An example of this would be walking into an elevator where there are already 3 other people inside, and all of them are facing away from the door. Would you face the same way as they are, or would you be the only one not facing that way? Here's a short clip showing normative influence.
The gentleman in the elevator now is a candid star. These folks who are entering, the man with the white shirt, the lady with the trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff, will face the rear. And you'll see how this man in the trench coat tries to maintain his individuality, but little by little, he looks at his watch, but he's really making an excuse for turning just a little bit more to the wall. Now we'll try it once again. Here's the candid subject. Here comes the candid camera staff, 3 of them at least. And this man has apparently been in groups before. Now, here's a fella with his hat on in the elevator. First he makes a full turn to the rear and Charlie closes the door. A moment later, we'll open the door, everybody's changed positions. Now we'll see if we can use group pressure for some good. Now, in a moment, on Charlie's signal, everybody turns forward. Notice they take off their hats. And now, do you think we could reverse the procedure? Watch.
The Johnny Rocco experiment. In this experiment, participants read a case study of a juvenile delinquent named Johnny Rocco. Then the participants were told to say aloud what type of treatment Johnny should receive from a scale ranging from 1 to 7. 1 being giving Johnny nothing but love, kindness, and friendship, and 7 being giving Johnny nothing but severe discipline by punishment. Most participants chose lenient attitudes towards Johnny Rocco's case, with positions at 2 to 4 on the scale of treatment. This study had Confederates that would assume 3 roles. 1. The mode, which agreed with the group majority. 2. The deviate, which disagreed with the group majority. And 3. The slider, which initially disagreed, but later changed to agree. Confederates all answered last so that they could calibrate their opinions based on the rest of the group. The experimenter took a census at 20 minutes into the discussion and again at the end. The experimenter then handed out questionnaires which mentioned that he was petitioning the psychology department to give him more funding, possibly to run future group sessions, so they may be given the opportunity to meet again. If that occurred, the researchers would use their questionnaire answers to guide decisions about any future meetings. The experimenter gave these instructions to increase the psychological realism that the participants may interact with each other in the future, and thus the ratings of the other group members may have meaningful impact on the future interactions. At the end of the experiment, the participants rated the conforming members as most liked, especially number 3, the slider. However, participants disliked number 2, the deviate, and wanted them to leave the study. Factors that affect conformity. Number 1, group size. Conformity increases in groups until 3 to 5 people, then plateaus the rest of the way. Number 2, unanimity. The opinions must be unanimous. Even one deviate can dramatically reduce conformity. Number 3, group cohesion. The more important the group, the greater the conformity. And number 4, the person. An individual's culture, their self-monitoring, and their self-esteem can greatly affect conformity.